Hello Hambini fans and welcome to another episode of Hambini Reams. In today's episode we have the Winspace SLC 3. Now Winspace are no longer newcomers to this game and this is their lightweight giant TCR killing frame that has come in for review. Winspace are not newcomers anymore and they have garnered quite a reputation, mainly after the first set of hyper wheels they sent in was such a bit of a hit. Well, how does this frame fare? Well, to start off with, this is what you get. So you get the frame, you get this fork, this seat post and seat clamp. You also get this box which has a load of other bits and pieces in it, such as spacers for the stem, quick release, through axles, a separate set of wedges and I think they're carbon rail holders for the seat, stem spacers, seat clamp to hold it in, and a few other bits and pieces like Di2 holder and various clamps and pieces. Let's do the weights. This is the fork. That comes out at 418 grams. This is the seat post. That is 182 grams. Frame is around about 820. Let's start off with the frame. And the most obvious thing you notice about this frame is the weight. It is ridiculously light. I remember picking this up at Eurobike and thinking, blimey, I wish every village bike that I ride was this light. Anyway, the back of the bike has the standard rear mech hanger. There's also another one in the box, which we'll come to later. This mounts through a fastening arrangement on the outside of here. So it's a pretty much run-of-the-mill affair. The hole for the Di2 or mech shifting is in there. Now I've seen some of them where it's slightly down chainstay, which I've always thought was a bit of an error, but no issues on this one. The back, I mean, the finishing on here is absolutely superb. Someone has taken some time to go through this. I mean, they've taken all the matte paint off, clear coat off, and you know, it is all the touch points have been cleaned up. Yeah, very, very good. The brake mounts, I've put a rule across them and they are perfectly flat and it looks like they've been dressed too. The back of the brake mounts also looks quite clean, and even though they aren't as important to dress, they have been. These are flared outwards and I reckon you could get 32mm tyres to fit. They are effectively a box section, so they're quite stiff, albeit quite lightweight. The seat stays are actually quite thin, so you'll get a bit more flex in here, or as the journalists kind of like to say, it's a bit more of a compliant ride. I'll be doing a video on compliance soon. Up near here we've got the bottom bracket. It's BB86. Normally, or nominally, that is 41mm by 86.5mm. But you know what this channel's like, so much fanfare has been made of this one. So this is 40.95 on one side and 41 on the other. So it's not going on that side, and that side's going in. So it is pretty much bang on. In fact, I've measured it with a bore gauge and it's the same for both sides. So it's either a YouTube special or, I think as it's becoming more common now, this is the standard. It's a very good standard. The face of here has also been machined flat, and this is the non-drive side. It's the same for the other side. This is a bore gauge in the drive side. It's 40.97 to 98. It's the same on the other side. On the outside, around here, I was a bit worried that the bottom bracket was deformed, but it's the same on both sides. They are mirrored, and that's basically where the frame tapers away. So it's not really an issue. I was just a bit worried. You can see it looks slightly warped. The hole is perfectly round and perfectly aligned. Water bottle mounts here and here. So they've got two sets to impress the V plates on weight weenies. This is the head tube and the top bearing landing. It's all very, very clean. This is the bottom of the headset bearing landing. It's all very clean, and if you finger the hole, you can give it a quick swizzle and you bring your finger out and there isn't still blood everywhere. Well, you can if it's not the wrong time of the month. The seat post transition area, so this uses a normal 27.2 seat post. It'll be a lot more flexible than a aerofoil job, mainly because the aerofoil seat posts tend to be quite stiff, got a high second moment of area. This one's just basically a round tube and a thinnish one at that, so it will bounce around a bit. This is the 27.2mm seat post, and it has a Ritchie style seat clamping system. Is it called WCS? Someone in the comments can correct me on it. This one's a little bit different to the other ones I've seen. It's a lot less likely to disassemble itself into a load of bits because it's captive on both sides. This is the fork, and it's carbon and it's round. I can't believe I'm praising something for being round. The bore is also concentric, which is quite important if you don't want to face plant the floor under a bit of load. I'll show you some internal shots of this later on. The finish is good, and the seats, especially the lower seat, is all fine. The routing is internal, so it goes through this hole here, and then it comes out through there. Let's do the box of tricks. So these are the through axles. Not really much to say about them. This is the top cap, and it's an interesting design. It is made by Token. The sides of this don't have any knurlings, and like a lot of other top caps have. So we'll see how much bite that gives. The anti-rotation system on this is quite novel. They've actually machined pegs and keys into there, or keys and keyways. We come onto the headset. This is by FSA, and it's called ACR, and it's like a pseudo standard. You get stems and handlebars that use the same boundary pattern, and in this case it makes the routing of cables very much easier. Now, I think in this day Winspace could probably do themselves a favour and offer the handlebars as a bit of an option, because lots of people are trying to buy bikes because of the aesthetics, and you've got a bit of a disjoint here. This is the only issue I've really found on this bike, so let me demonstrate what the problem is. This is the top wedge ring, or some people call them a crown race, but I wouldn't really class that as that. You can see it's like an incomplete donut in shape. The problem is, and it's designed like that so that you can get cables down one side. Now, the problem with this is you get slack in the top bearing, and you can see this moving around. So this is the top bearing. I'm going to put the wedge ring inside, and there's quite a lot of play in there. Now, I thought, no problem, that'll be fine. As soon as I put the steerer tube there, it'll splay outwards and grab. That is a bit better, but it's still slack. So I thought, oh balls. Here we go, here's the steerer tube. The wedge ring's in there and it's clamped around it. Put it in, still slack. A little bit better, but still a little bit slack. Where this gets a little bit more sordid is I thought it was going to be some sort of crap fit in the wedge ring, because this is machined, whereas the bearing is ground. What I couldn't believe was it actually transpires it's the bearing. So bearing is supposed to be 42mm bore, and it's actually 42.08. It's almost 42.1. Show how this works in practice. So you've got the bearing, the wedge ring, and then this is the bit that goes between there and the spacer and the stem. So that's the FSA part, and it's keyed like that. So the cables go through there, through that cavity there, and then into the bike frame. So that is how it is kept apart. It is a very slick system, but the manufacturing tolerances on it, again, we're back there, aren't that great. Just to go through that play again. There's loads in there. It is reduced when the fork is on, but it's still, you know, too high. There are a couple of ways to solve this. The easiest way would be to get a new bearing, one that is exactly 42mm, or you could put a piece of tin foil or something like that on there just to splay it outwards a bit more. Even probably electrical tape will probably do the job. But Winspace has UK distribution now, so you can just get one of these and it'll come next day. Thought I would do something a little bit different today. So the bike review comes from the garden. So this is it, probably about 2,000 or so kilometers later. The frame has been perfect. There's nothing really been wrong with that. Just to talk you through what's on here, there's the Winspace SLC through frame. The bottom bracket is BBA6, so it's one of mine. The group set's 105. It's got that ceramic non-stick Teflon stuff on it. The wheels are 9 Velo, and they've been really, really good. Can't recommend them enough. As a piece of engineering, I'd certainly recommend them. The tyres are Maxxis High Roads. My local bike shop sells them, so I just stick them on. I wouldn't say they're particularly good, but you know, they've got them. In terms of riding, I mean, the thing you really notice with this is it's actually a bit of a compact frame, so getting your sizing right can be a bit of a faff. So I've got, obviously you can see, quite long legs, but a relatively short upper body. And that means I have to put a few more spaces under the stem than I'd like to. The other thing is, for the stem, I mean, if we talk about possibly the worst handlebar wrapping job in the world, so those of you who follow my Instagram know that I had to go to Billund, so where Legoland is, and I took this to them, and I went out running, and I asked the hairdresser to go to the local bike shop, which wasn't far from our hotel, and get the handlebars wrapped, because previously it didn't have anything on it. So 60 quid later, this is what we got. So I reckon this is the same stuff that they had on Amazon, and yeah, I don't know if they saw her coming or what, but that's 60 quid. I mean, look at that. That's an absolute joke. So, and that was done by a professional. I don't know if 60 quid is the going rate in Denmark or not, but there we go. I mean, the ride on here is, I guess people would say, quite soft or quite silky. Main reason is because of this. So you've got a very long, round seat tube, or seat post. So there's plenty of flex in there. And then the rails on my seat, and this is just a bog standard seat. It's a Syncros seat. There's plenty of bounce in there as well. So the ride is very good. So as an overall package, I would say the bike is very good. If you're going to buy this, then obviously we know about the headset. You can get an aftermarket set of handlebars from AliExpress, and I'll post that link later on. Right, it is that time of the PowerPoint again, of the show again for PowerPoint. We just need to check the pen is working. Oh, the Wacom Intuos is working. Right, I wasn't quite sure what to call this, so I settled on this, which is a bit tame. FSA equals factory second at best. It might not even be FSA's fault, but given the response they gave me later on in this presentation, they're just still crap and shite. If you can think of any better wording other than factory second at best, I mean, you know, fucking shite all the time, something like that, then do put it in the comments below, because I'd love to read them. By Hambini, aged 5, some rampant shilling, Patreon, there's discounts, early previews, disc brake power data, which Map Deck doesn't understand because he's a clown. Hambini.com for more shite and merch. Instacrap, face crap, you know how it is. Right, what was the fix? Well, the fix was you ring some guy up or email him And then Winspace UK sent me a replacement. So it was all in all very, very straightforward. The whole thing was fixed in under 24 hours. So I can't really fault them for that. Now this, I think, is the bearing. Now I could be wrong, but I think it's an Acros bearing. Based on the sizes, because it is a bit of an oddball size. It's 42 by 52 by 7, the nominal values, although you saw that it was measured at way more than 42. I'm showing you on the Air Velo website. I mean, personally, I wouldn't buy any bearings from them because they have a reputation for selling fakes. But I just wanted to make that impartial. The Acros website, I apologise, it's in German, but this looks like a dead ringer for this system. So whether Acros sell this to FSA or FSA are buying this or Winspace are buying this, I'm not quite sure. But the bearing size and even the picture, this picture here, look like what is fitted on that Winspace bike. Now if you click on this PDF file here, it takes you to this, which, oh God, right? I don't know why I even bother doing this. The guy is wearing a baseball cap, and you know what I think about engineers wearing baseball caps or hoodies. Yes. Anyway, this is the installation instructions. It does reference Canyon in there, but I'm not sure if that's just a curveball or not. So take that as you will. Right, here is a crap schematic, crap with a capital P, of what's going on. So this is a cross section through a typical headset bearing. So you've got the seat, and this is the top bearing, by the way, which is here. Right. And it's at a slight angle. So it's a conical seat or chamfered seat. And then you've also got a chamfer on the inside of the bearing. And this is exaggerated, but you can see there's a gap there and there. You need that gap to be able to get the bearing in and out. Obviously, when you put it into the hole, it's a lot smaller than I've drawn there, but that gap is there for that reason. Now, when you preload this up, what happens is you've got this wedge ring here and here, which you apply load to. As you apply load to it, that load gets transmitted through here. And that's what preload does. It takes out the slack. So this gap that's here and here, it's a hard fit. So it just takes that out, and then it all becomes, it all gets put into tension, and that's better from a steering perspective. However, so this is the idealized scenario. This is what would happen. So you've applied preload to the wedge ring and it's crushed in, and you'll see this diameter here is smaller than this diameter here. So you'd think, oh, all really, really good. And you would normally think that, but there's always a but, isn't there? What happens is there is the flat part of the wedge ring. So if I was to draw on this one first of all, and this is what can happen, you've got a flat part of the wedge ring, which, oh God, let's say it looks like that. Yeah. That basically means you can't crush it beyond there. That's the limit of it. And then if we go down here, that's where that flat part would be. So that is your limit. Now you can see what can happen if that flat part bottoms out on here. So it's now there. Okay, you can't reduce this diameter. I need to get better in my pen work anymore. It just becomes limited by that, and that can cause a few problems. The other problem is, and a generic problem, even if you're not bottomed out, if you put excessive amounts of preload onto the headset bearings, they can very quickly feel like in the dead ahead position, the steering feels slightly locked, and as you turn it left or right, it feels like it's moving and then self-centering, and it's a bit of a difficult one to describe really, but it encourages Brunelling of the bearings, and that's putting small pits into the bearing races so the bearing sits there and then away you go. It is way worse if you use stainless steel bearings, because stainless steel is soft. That's not very often talked about in the bicycle industry, or even YouTubers, because they're like, wow, I've got a stainless steel bearing, it's corrosion free, I'm going to have a long life out of it. Yes, it will be more resistant corrosion, but the failure mechanism is through that Brunelling, because it's very poor under vibration, and a headset is going to be in vibration, subject to serious vibration. Right, this is FSA's response, and that's why I wanted to ream them in this presentation. They said, our articles are made to our own protocols and adhere to our own strict quality control standards. Plus or minus 0.2 millimeters is perfectly acceptable. Now, in my humble opinion, I would say that's a load of rubbish, and they're just trying to avoid a warranty claim. You can take that as you will. To give some context into this, this is FSA's tolerance on their bearings to say what they think is acceptable. This one's NTN, this one's SKF, and this one's Toyama. It's just a different world of what is acceptable and what is not. And that kind of sums the bike industry up to a whole. This is the Winspace website. They still sell the SLC2, and the SLC3 is the one that I've been riding around on. If you click on description, you can get all the sort of blurbage on the SLC3. Overall, this is a good bike. If you take the bearing aside, the frame is, I would say, is very good. Now, I think that someone has put something subliminal in here, because if you read all this, it says like increased bottom bracket stiffness. And I thought, oh, that'll be over the SLC2. But if you look very carefully, it says, with the thing, it says comparing with the SL8. So I wonder if someone was actually comparing it to a Specialized. But there we go. You can look at all of this. Now, in terms of wind tunnels and aerodynamics, if you want that, you're probably better off with the Winspace T1550. I think that's better for aerodynamics and stiffness. But as an overall bike, can't really fault it. Here are some shots of the inside. There's not really much to say about it. I mean, all of these bike companies, well, a lot of them, Yoleo, Light Carbon, they're starting to go to this one-piece EPS molded stuff, and the insides of the frames are very clean now. It's probably going to cause time a problem, because they've historically marketed their bikes on their workmanship and the insides, and even to this day they're still very good. But you can't rest around, because someone will be over your shoulder and then past you in a flash, and that's, I think, what's happening here. So there's not really a lot to write home about. If you're into things, then you can look at that riv nut. It's all reinforced. Yeah, again, it's just very clean. There's no ripples, there's no layer shift, it's just nothing. Right, there is one thing that I would say about this, and it applies to the SLC2 as well. You would be fairly foolish to run 30mm or a dub axle in this frame, because there's not much space for the bearings to take the load, and it's a fairly thin structure as well around it. And yeah, fair enough, the bottom bracket may be stiffer, but fundamentally you've got less material around it. So if you were to look in terms of bottom bracket standards, if you take this picture here, the bearing on the left is a 6805 bearing. So that's one of the bearings that I use, is a full-size 6805. The bearing on the right is a 6806, so one for T47 or a BB386 bottom bracket, and the one in the middle is BB86 with dub. So or 30mm, it's very slender. So that's something I would suggest you try to avoid. Right, overall, I mean, the bike rides really well. It's and I guess that's subject to opinion, but I wouldn't really say much against it in terms of the ride. It's very good. If you get the option, I would buy the one with the handlebars included, because the FSA or Acros business, it left a very sour taste in my mouth. And I think that could be easily solved. In the end, it was very easy to solve, but you can see FSA's attitude towards it. Whether that is actually their fault or not, I don't know. Ultimately, I guess Winspace are responsible because it came with the bike frame, but they were so quick to sort me out. So all of this stuff about, you know, buying from China and it takes ages if you get a problem, I think it's just total rubbish. They've set themselves up now, so they've got distribution in all of the key markets of Australia, the US, Canada, UK, and EU. Geometrically, it's very good. And I said this bit previously, you know, if you've got an idea or a desire to fit a dub or 30mm axle, you can probably run that, but you want to make sure that you're not putting out mega torque, because that will trash the bearings. Right, if you've got any questions or comments, remember to use that box below. And that brings us to the end of the show. If you did enjoy it, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, go screw yourself. And as always, keep banging your hairdresser.